Ladies and gentlemen, I have a ton of trade ideas for you guys this week. And if you're brand new to the channel, I've been trading and investing for 9 years. I'm what's called a chartered market technician, so I'm a professional technical analyst. And I'm an options specialist, so if you guys got any options questions, I've got you. So we're gonna go over the broad markets, we're gonna go over a ton of trade ideas, then I'm gonna go into a little bit of a trade recap, and then I'm gonna take member questions. Okay, and just remember that none of this is financial advice. None of this is an offer to buy or sell any security. I'm just drawing on some charts, giving some education to you guys. Okay, so let's get right into it. I like to start with the S&P 500, the SPY ETF, because most stocks are going to be following the SPY. If we take a look at the daily time frame, it was a really bullish week. And so the green lines represent last week's expected move. The SPY was not likely to get much past 634, and it wasn't likely to sell off much underneath 607. And so right out the gate, Monday, we had a bullish green day, Tuesday, bearish red day, Wednesday, bullish green day, Thursday, a gap and crap down, and Friday, a gap and go back to the upside. So a lot of intraday, or I should say swing trade whipsaws. And remember that 2/3 of the time, price is contained within that range. And I actually had a red day on Friday just because I was playing off of that range. I'll recap that in a bit. But I had a great day Thursday, great day Wednesday, great day Tuesday, and an okay day Monday. And I'll be recapping that later. So moving forward to this week, we have a $9 expected move. Of course, that could be breached to the upside or could be breached to the downside, but SPY is not likely to get much higher than 648 this week, and it's not likely going to get much underneath 629 this week. I will say if we can turn 629 into resistance, that would confirm Friday as a lower high pivot to the all-time high, and it could sell a little bit further. However, the market's just super strong. And a lot of the individual tech stocks are in bullish positions. So it's a tricky time to be a short, and buyers, you need to still be careful and be picky with your entries. And so I'll give some individual stocks that we can capitalize on for that. If we take a look at the VIX, the volatility and fear index, VIX down, down, down. Had a quick little spike last week, I should say 2 weeks ago, and now it's fading on lower. Remember that when VIX is selling off and downtrending, that's where we see the SPY get that choppy uptrend, okay? So VIX, no signs of life really just yet. So until the VIX starts to really break out, the market's not really going to sell off hard. If we take a look at the fear and greed index, how do people feel about the stock market? It's on a scale of 0 to 100, 0 being the sky is falling, the world is ending, 100 being we're in a pure utopia and everybody's making millions and millions of dollars. Right now, we're at greed in the market, but it's only a reading of 59 out of 100. And sometimes these sentiment indicators can offer trends for a long period of time. So when you're in the greed channel, sometimes the market can uptrend for a period of time. It's important to note though that we are decently extended in the market, which makes it really tricky to go like all out bullish right here, unless you're, managing your position size, you're picking proper stocks, and we'll get into that. Let's get into some trade ideas since we have a ton of trade ideas. I'm just going to go right down the list. I always post my trade ideas in the trade ideas channel. These are just notes. They're just ideas for now. Note that the chart may be different in real time when I'm actually looking at it. But this is as of the way that the chart is positioned right now. So let's get right into it. First up is NVIDIA. And late last week, I noted some NVIDIA bullish setups over this 180 level. And NVIDIA got to all-time highs, 183, little 2% gain. NVIDIA just stair-stepping higher. We got higher lows. We got a flat top near this 183. If you're looking for a quick day trade, there might be a quick breakout over 183, and you take profits into all-time highs. The NVIDIA expected move is plus or minus $7. So don't expect NVIDIA to go to $200 per share. A good target this week would be something like 190 if you're going to swing it. And obviously, if it's just Monday, you can take that expected move of $7, divide it by 5. You'll get, like a $1.20 out of that. So basically what I'm saying is if I buy this breakout over 183, stop loss would be like 181.50. The take profit would be like 184.50, 184.20. So not going for like a huge move, just like a quick little scalp. So that's just a quick little trade idea. Next up is Apple. Apple had a big move last week, and especially on Friday. Congratulations to anybody that caught 0-day call options. It wasn't on my radar, but I'm sure a few people did. And that's a huge, huge breakout on a decent increase in bullish volume. So Apple, really interesting daily chart. If you look at this, you can see this flat top right here over like 216, call it. Gets near it, sells off. 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 Breaks above it, rallies hard. And this is a what's called 4 standard deviation move, meaning Apple moved 4 times the expected move. And that put a lot of upwards pressure in the market because Apple has such a heavy weight in the overall NASDAQ and the S&P 500. Apple's expected move this week is plus or minus $8. I do feel like that's efficiently priced. If Apple were to sell off to this like 220 area, that could be a potential short-term support. If it does it later in the week, I wouldn't be as interested in the long, but let's say like Monday or Tuesday, it sells into 220 and it starts to bounce. You could buy that, put your stop loss underneath the pivot that it makes, and then see how high it can go. I would be looking at potential Apple iron condors, maybe if it could stay within a range of, like 222.50 on the low side, and then on the top side, maybe something like, 232.50. So it's like a 10-point box. If Apple could close within that range, you'd get max profit. If it closes outside the range, you'd absorb the max loss. So that's Apple. Next up is Google. Google was the top setup on the Victory Talk podcast, not Victory Trade podcast, although that's kind of what we're doing right now. But on Thursday, I was on Brandon Carter's Victory Talk podcast, and we were talking about Google, and this is a nice flat top. Look at this. Beautiful flat top over this like 197 level. It starts to break out right on Friday. Beautiful. On a slight increase in volume, which tells us people are paying attention to that breakout. If Google can hold above that breakout point, 198, call it, I think that Google can potentially test up to at least 203, probably 205, and maybe even up to like 207. The expected move on Google is plus or minus $8.43. So maybe something like 209 to 210 could be a great profit target for Google this week if it's going to remain bullish and the market's going to remain bullish. Okay, so if Google can maybe pull back to that area and hold it as support, you could look at call options, bullish put credit spreads, you name it. And I'll be evaluating that in real time. Okay, so Google setting a price alert at 198.10. Next up is JP Morgan, JPM. JP Morgan kind of looking just a little bit top heavy. You can kind of see this steeper downtrend line, flat support at this 284.50. If JP Morgan breaks underneath 284.50, I think there's just like a day trade short opportunity, short underneath that level. Stop loss could be like an hourly trail stop down. And then you just take profit into like the 280 zone, maybe the 282 zone. Not going for a huge win on that. The expected move for JP Morgan is $7.46. So again, if it breaks that support, look for like $1 to $2 of downside movement if that triggers. Okay. Broadcom is a stock that I've been buying for a while down here. I wish I had done more buying up over here and up over here. I was waiting for a better pullback and just never got it. Sometimes that's just how it goes in the market, but I like AVGO long term. Just keep it on your radar for if it can drop and maybe get oversold. An objective measure of finding oversold is put out an RSI indicator, relative strength index, and it measures speed and momentum of prices as well as overbought and oversold. If this could ever get oversold ever again, I'd be liking to buy AVGO. But for now, just keep it on your radar. The healthcare sector has been getting it's been getting beat up lately. So take a look at XLV. Ever since the big beautiful bill came out, I gave this a neutral/bearish reading. This is exactly what neutral/bearish looks. Kind of bounces, drops, bounces, but puts in a lower high and just shimmies on lower. I'm still kind of leaning neutral/bearish on the healthcare. However, if you have a long-term perspective, I think that you can potentially get some value out of this area. And that could be coming from UNH. I do think that over the next few years, UNH can potentially test 350 to 380. And that represents 40% upside, 55% upside. The thing is that the stock is in such a strong downtrend that, it may want to test like 200 or even like 180 before it does that. We do have daily bullish divergence where the RSI makes a higher low while price is making a lower low, which tells us that a bounce could be incoming. It doesn't mean it has to happen right away, but what I'm seeing is a lower low, a rally. It tried to make another lower low, put in a higher low pivot. Is this the start of a potential new uptrend? Time will tell. But UNH, longer term, maybe I could go out and buy some like bullish call debit spreads. Maybe go out to like June of 2026. I could do something like buy the 300 call, sell the 310 call. I'm going to risk $265, and $265 turns into $1,000 if UNH can close above 310 by June 18th. Let me repeat that. Risk of $265. That's the most that I can lose. But that turns into $1,000 if UNH can get above 310 by the end of June 18th, 2026. If you want to go with shares and you want to start dollar cost averaging, UNH does pay over a 3% dividend while you wait. So you do get cash flow if you're going to check that out while you're waiting. Again, this isn't advice. Stock is in a downtrend. It's just one of those things where, hey, it's a blue chip stock. Is it going to go to zero? It could. More than likely, though, it can recover at least a portion of its fair value. Okay, this ties in with CNC. I bought some CNC stock on Friday and bought some bullish call debit spreads. And, going long at that 25 level. Now it's at 25.59. Let's see if this can continue over 25.80. If you want a short-term trade, long over 25.80, stop underneath 25. You're only going to risk about 3%, but you could potentially get a lot more. I think the stock can recover back to about $35 per share. Okay. If you're really lucky, it could maybe recover up to $50 or $53 per share. Again, though, risky. It's in a strong downtrend and sellers are still winning. Okay. Another one that's similar to that is NVO. I picked up some leap call debit spreads down here at 47. Got one final earnings gap down and then two major gap ups on NVO. And I was kind of drawing out this like spike, and that's what's taking place. I think this is a DCA candidate, dollar cost average. Okay. Another stock that I like and noted as one of my favorite stocks for 2025 is TSM. And again, since the beginning of the year, TSM went up, then it got crushed on the tariff news. TSM dropped 30%, but from the lows, TSM is now up 82%. Okay. From the beginning of the year, though, TSM is only up 23%. But TSM building out a high base right up here. This drawing over here is from a bullish call butterfly I alerted. But TSM looks bullish over 247, 248. Otherwise, I'd love to see if it could maybe dip down to 210. 210 could be an okay support level. And a much better support level would be 175. If TSM drops to 175, longer term, I'm going to buy it with three hands. That's just me. I'm not telling you to buy it. I'm just saying I'm probably going to buy it with three hands. I'm going to buy shares, leap calls, leap call debit spreads. I'm going to collect that 82-cent per share dividend, and we'll be good to go. Okay? So if the market starts to reject resistance, I really need to see some sort of intraday like bearish reversal, like a head and shoulders formation, maybe like a drop, bear flag, and then another drop. Because the market is decently extended. It's not super extended. It was a strong rally last week. But I think, if I'm going to buy premium, I'd like to buy puts, especially if it could break this support area. Again, it's just an idea. I'm just thinking out loud right now. If I'm going to go bullish, I'd like to pick relatively strong stocks and just use the SPY as kind of like a gauge. Okay. Next up is uranium, URA. I noted a dip buy spot at 34. It got as low as 37 and then bounced. I still like that 34 level. So just keep an eye on it. UUUU is what I've been wheeling for a while. I'm still wheeling it, and it's been a great cash flow candidate. Looks like a reversal on Friday. So if UUUU could maybe sell down to the 750 level, I'd like to sell UUUU 750 or even 7 strike cash secured puts. It's not paying any premium right now because that's so far away from price. But if it could sell off a little bit more, the premiums on those strikes would open up and I would get paid to buy 100 shares at 7. I could do 1 of them, 3 of them, 5 of them, 10 of them, you name it. And if it closes above that 7 level, I get that max profit. If it closes beneath 7, I still get the max profit. I just have to own the shares at 7. But I still get to keep all that premium. I've been loving every single Saturday because that's where all my credit spreads and covered calls and cash secured puts expire, and I just get thousands deposited into my brokerage account. And it's just nice to have that buying power fresh each and every week. So that's why I really like the wheel strategy and the wheel setups, because you get that fresh cash flow each and every week. It's beautiful. Absolutely beautiful. Okay? And how do I see the expected move? I just get it on Thinkorswim. It's in the top right corner of the screen. Remember that 2/3 of the time price is contained within the expected move. If you don't know how to calculate the expected move, just take the at the money strike. So how do you do that? What's the current price? On UUUU, it's about $9.55. What's the closest strike to that? 9.5. So 9.5. And then all we do is we add up the premium on the call and we add up the premium on the put. So let's just say it's 0.9 plus 0.8. That equals 1.7. What's the expected move? 1.77. It's going to be off by a little bit, but it gives you a rough idea of what the expected move is. So whatever the current market price is, take the put strike that's closest to it, add up the put premium, add up the call premium. That gets your total expected move for the week. Simple way to do it if you don't have Thinkorswim or if you're not in the US. Okay? It's a super helpful tool. Let's get into some more trade ideas, and then we'll break down your guys' stocks. We'll get into a trade recap with some lessons, and then we'll be on our way. Next up is gold. Gold's been consolidating nicely. Big volume spike on Friday. Not a lot of price movement though. 0.02% down on Friday. Gold is slightly gapping down in the after hours session, so I'm going to leave it alone for a bit. But gold, yeah, in the futures, it looks like it broke out, at least on the December contract. But gold just looks bullish. I'd be looking at longs and calls over, 315, add over 316.50, add over 317. So I'm going to build and average up my position. And then if it breaks those all-time highs, that's where I start to reduce the position and then leave some runners. So looking for a longer-term breakout on gold. I'd give myself a lot of time on those call options. You can do call debit spreads, bullish put credit spreads, bullish call butterflies. You could go long the shares. You could go long the futures. I like trading GC and MGC futures. Those have treated me very, very well, and I've enjoyed it. Okay, so that's a quick little gold idea. If you're looking for like a small cap idea, FNMA, big spike on Friday. Looking like a long over 10, stop underneath 9, take profit at 11. This doesn't have options. FNMA, long over 10, stop underneath 9, take profit into 11. Super simple on that one. A lot of individual tech stocks are looking bullish, and Meta is no different. Meta, everybody's on Instagram. Everybody's using Instagram. The old people are on Facebook. Meta's got control over everybody. This is kind of like a bullish pennant rally and then a tight consolidation on a decrease in volume. This is bullish. So Meta, a bullish breakout would be like over 780, over 782. Ideally, this could consolidate for like 2 or 3 more days and get towards the apex. And then it's a better breakout. Otherwise, there's an okay support on Meta at about 735. So the expected move for Meta this week is $22. And so what I could do is maybe do something like sell the 735 put, buy the 732.50 put. Right now it's only paying 20 cents in credit, but maybe I could get something like 0.7. I like to get about 70 cents in credit on my $2.5 wide spreads. And you know, if you get 1.25 credit, it means it's a 50-50. There's a 50% chance you're going to make 125 bucks. There's a 50% chance you're going to lose 125 bucks. But if you get 0.7 in credit, it means there's a much higher probability you're going to get that max profit. And all it needs to do is close above 735. If it goes just straight bullish, you're good to go for the week. If it drops, you're fine. You just can't let it drop and continue to drop and then stay dropped. So that's what's nice about credit spread trading. You can use supports to help you select your strikes. Okay? Next up is Tesla, TSLA. Tesla, big pennant over here. Everybody can see this. High, low, lower high, higher low, lower high, higher low, lower high, equal low. Starting to break bull. Volume starting to break bullish. I'd be leaning towards day trading calls. But because everybody can see this pennant, sometimes you can get some shenanigans where it breaks and then snaps underneath. Same to the downside. It can break underneath, snap back up. But just keep an eye on Tesla. It's a good day trading stock. Really, really good day trading stock. Next up is Ethereum. Ethereum breaking out very, very nicely. Gosh, I'm kicking myself for not getting aggressive on Ethereum or even taking positions on it. I've just been kind of watching it. And that's a good move. That's a real good move. You know, nice breakout on volume. I would just say, if you're willing to just take that risk, ETHA, maybe just close your eyes. Maybe I'll close my eyes, buy some call options, and check back in a few days. They'll either be up a ton, or they'll be cut in half, or down by 90% or more. It's a tricky setup because it's so extended. But it's also crypto. Crypto doesn't give a crap about being extended. But it is a breakout at face value. So ETHA, as long as it's holding above 29.25, the bullish uptrend is intact. Okay? Another sector that's been strong, or that could be starting to come into rotation, it actually hasn't been strong, is the biotech sector. I'm looking at GILD. This is kind of like a shock gap over here, where this gap on Friday after earnings took out all this consolidation right here. And so all that energy, all those open orders, it's likely going to get released to the upside. Does it have to? No. It's just likely to. And so GILD, I'd like a long over 120, long over 121.38, and stop would be underneath Friday's low, 115. If you want a looser stop, give it underneath 108, and that's if you're going for a longer term trade. That ties in with XBI. XBI is still, like, look at it. It's kind of weak, kind of underperforming. If XBI could maybe break out over 89, that could be the next sector in rotation. Okay? Another stock that's relatively strong, CART. See, I like this because earnings are out of the way. Nice breakout. Already retested the former breakout area and confirmed it as support. I like this long over 52.60, add over 53.50, and then take profits at the upper edge of the expected move, which for this week is $2 higher. So $2 higher. Yeah, you really wouldn't want to go for much more than 55 on that trade. Stop would be underneath Friday's low, 49.46. Okay? Tying in with Bitcoin /BTC is this BMNR trade. BMNR, you know, I took a long on this at 39, got a great move up to 46, but literally like the next day I had to cut it. And I noted that you could take profits onto this, like into this spike. Or sorry, is this spike right up here. I just didn't want to. I wanted to hold for it. And I didn't know how bad that sell-off could get, but it did end up recovering. This could be a potential long setup over 55. Maybe a better deal would be 43 though. So 43 is the dip trade. Otherwise, the aggressive breakout trade is over 55 on that stock. Energy sector, XLE, holding support right now for now. This is actually bearish underneath 84.21. I'm not going to trade it bearish, but I'm just going to keep an eye on it. Okay. One of my favorite energy stocks is ET. I've been loving this for the wheel. If this could sell off a little bit more, I'd like that for cash secured puts. Otherwise, another energy stock that's in rotation is ATO. ATO, Atmos Energy Corp. Beautiful uptrend, holding higher lows. This is a long over 166.33. And I would go with a loose stop underneath 154. Okay, 154 stop. Pays a nice 87 cent per share dividend. And that's some cool stuff. Post your stocks now, you guys. I'm going to break down your guys' stocks. We'll do some trading recaps, see what we can learn to replicate success and manage risk further. It was a good week last week. I was just red on Friday, but I was green all the other days of the week. But I'm just going to go down the list. RW's asking about Trade Desk. Let's check it out. Trade Desk, TTD. Yeah, oh man, look at that. Big ass gap down. They rug pulled this. I'm not in this stock, and I'm glad I'm not in this stock. That's a rug pull. So to recap TTD's price action, nice steady uptrend for a long period of time. Starts to break the trend line, then it goes horizontal for a bit. Fat ass gap down on earnings. It seems to be a theme. And look what happened after that. Look at that downtrend after the earnings. 2 earnings cycles ago. Big downtrend. A nice rally. Big downtrend. Bases. So notice after a strong downtrend, if it starts to base, one of two things can happen. It's either a bear flag and you get a continuation downwards, or if it's super extended like it was right here, this base ended up breaking out upwards on that earnings, goes through a 45-degree angle sell-off. This is a kind of channel, bullish channel, because it broke bull, held it as support, broke up again, chop, 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 and then fat gap down. That's tricky. This is really tricky. So the expected move on TTD is about $4. That means it's not likely to go much higher than like 58, and it's not likely to go much lower than 50. I would say let it sell off a bit more. If it could get underneath 50 and maybe get something down to like 47, you could maybe take a stab at an oversold dip trade, because it would be almost double the expected move to the downside and extended. But just look at its prior history. After its earnings, it tends to trend in that direction of the earnings gap for a long period of time. Good earnings right here. Trends up for a few days, goes down for a few weeks, goes up for a few weeks, and then just crushed. This is a tricky stock. I would say for TTD, tag me in real time before you take a trade, and I can give you an updated analysis on that. Okay? Any futures predictions this week? That's tricky. So like predicting futures, you're predicting order flow, and that's kind of what we're doing in the market in general. All I really have are like setups, but like in terms of like the S&P 500, the NASDAQ, those predictions are really tough, at least for me right now, because we're extended into resistance, but we're also in a strong uptrend. And I feel like that's been a key theme for a while. So until that changes, I don't really have too many predictions on that. I predict that over time, gold futures are likely going to go higher over time. That ties into GLD. I'm slightly bearish on oil. Oil was a nice short last week, shorting right near this resistance, 64.69. Got a nice good drop of 3% from that resistance point. How'd I find that level? Well, here's the oil big sell-off. Bounces nicely. Okay, that tells us this is a key level. Comes into it. Bounces. Okay, still a key level. Breaks underneath it. Okay, change of character. Comes back towards it, turns it into resistance. That's your short setup. That's your sell. And then it did get just a bit of continuation there. Okay. So that's just kind of my quick take and predictions on futures. But you can ask me on the live tomorrow morning at 9:15 a.m. Eastern what I think about any chart. And I got you. Unknown's asking, what do I think about Celsius? Welcome to Victory Trades, by the way. I'm glad you got in. I know we were messaging each other for a while. I'm glad you got in. Celsius, really interesting stock. So to recap Celsius just a bit, a few years ago, we were accumulating long Celsius, a lot of Celsius, Hundreds and hundreds of shares. And that's different for every account. Got a nice big breakout. Didn't sell any. Gets a pullback. Bought more Celsius. And then I'm like, okay, my Celsius position is way too large. Way too large, as in fat. Way too large, which also was a fat position. Big move up. And then once it started to confirm a double top, you kind of get a little bit of a tweezer top, or you get a little bit of like a doji up there. And then once that red candle started coming in, I'm like, nah, let's get out. Let's get out. So traded Celsius very well. Left it alone during this extended sell-off and actually sold 23 and 22 strike cash secured puts. Got assigned on those. Sold 29 covered calls. Got called away on those. I left some gains on the table. Celsius, its fair value is about $32 per share. This is a cyclical company. This is the energy drink Celsius. And it tends to perform well in summer periods. And you can see that, right? You know, April, May, June, July. Nice outperformance. I think it's a bit overbought, a bit overextended. I personally would not be chasing this long, even though the trend is up. It's doing just fine. I personally am not going to be investing or trading this anytime soon. Big earnings gap, probably from all the Celsius summer sales. I know I've contributed a couple $100 a year to Celsius. Probably close to like $1,000 a year I spend on Celsius. It's a good energy drink. They're all pretty much the same to me. I would only like a short-term dip buy on Celsius if it came down to $42.79, and even short-term, I wouldn't even invest in it because the fair value is what, $32 per share. The way I find fair value is I go to Thinkorswim, fundamentals, type in the ticker symbol, and I like to check Morningstar, but you can check all the other analyst ratings. You can go on Yahoo Finance. You can have ChatGPT 5, test it out and give you a fundamental analysis. That's totally cool. Yeah, just take a look at this. It's downloading the fair value. There we go. Yeah, Celsius, fair value estimate $33.50. That means at the current price of $52 per share, stock is, 36% overvalued. 35% overvalued. Me personally, if you're a savage, you maybe even could short it for the winter season because it's cyclical and see if it can drop. But I'd leave that alone. Don't beat up on Celsius. It's a strong stock. So yeah, that's my quick take on Celsius unknown. Let me know if you have any other questions. PJ's got a few list of stocks for me. Let's check out MS, Morgan Stanley. Looking pretty strong. I'd be neutral/bullish. There's an all-time high breakout setup over 145. Other than that, I don't see any other setups. There's maybe a short underneath 136.76. Other than that, that's my quick thoughts on it. You can take a look at XLF, the financial sector. Two things that I'm seeing. Nice strong uptrend, but then a drop, a bear flag, and that would give a continued drop if the XLF breaks underneath 51. And you target the golden fib, 49.11. XLF doesn't move too much. It's not really a trading vehicle. I use it as an indicator. XLF is a pretty big weight in the S&P 500, so if you see financials green, market's going to likely be green. If you see financials red, market's likely going to be red. Okay? All right, so let's check out MasterCard, MA. MasterCard has a monopoly on the credit card sector. Nice steady uptrend. I'd be leaning neutral/bullish. This is a bullish engulfing right here. Bullish engulfing. I'd be bearish. MasterCard underneath 545. I wouldn't trade this stock. This is more of a stock that you kind of like invest in. It's kind of like that Microsoft stock. Yeah, it's not really a stock that you trade. Resistance is 588. That's really all I have much to say about that. That's a bullish engulfing. They've got a monopoly. It's in an uptrend. Could be bearish underneath 553, but I wouldn't trade that. Really just kind of stuck in this range of 580 down to 554 until that range breaks. no real trends can really get going. JBL, let's check out JBL. Jabil. This one's interesting. Wow. Very nice chart. A bit extended up here. You do have some bearish divergences forming where price made a higher high, RSI made a steep lower high, and you did get a minor sell-off. This looks very similar to Morgan Stanley. Bullish breakout over 232, could break bearish underneath 212. Other than that, I'd leave it alone. Keep an eye on the RSI trend line. If that starts to break bullish, that means that price could break out up. Otherwise, if it turns this into resistance, price may consolidate or go down. Interesting chart. Is there a good Ethereum ETF? Like IBIT for Bitcoin? Yeah, ETHA. And then there's also just ETH. That's the grayscale Ethereum mini trust ETF. So yeah, you could trade options on ETH or ETHA. Very similar to IBIT. Very similar to BTC. Got it? Cool. Yeah, and if you got questions on options, specific stocks, anything like that, hit me up. This is the place to do it. Unknown is asking about UNH. Yeah, we broke this down earlier. I like this longer term. Could be putting in a higher low pivot. You got a bullish divergence on UNH. Fair value is over $500 per share. I don't think it can get up there, but even something like 350 to 380 could be a good 1 to 2 year price target on that. You get a 3% dividend if you invest in shares. And I showed a call debit spread expiring January of 2026, or sorry, June of 2026, buying the 300, selling the 310 call. It's going to cost only $265, and $265 can turn into $1,000. Okay? So that's UNH. Can we look at Wells Fargo? Sure thing. WFC. Used to work at Wells Fargo. These financial stocks look very similar. Wells Fargo looks weaker than most of them. Drop, bear flag. Wells Fargo looks bearish underneath 75. That's a put option trade underneath 75, and you'd target something like 72 or the edge of the expected move, which would be $2.50. So bearish underneath 76, 75. If it drops $2.50, 73.50 would be a good target. Just looking for a 3% drop. I would not trade that bullish, even though it could break up bullish if it breaks that little wedge to the upside. The first target would be 80.50. Wells always getting fined. Yeah. They don't care though. Yeah. You know, all the people I worked with, they're very nice. They were not corrupt. Greed can drive people to do evil things. Money can drive people to do evil things, especially if they think they can't get caught. But yeah, didn't they make like a bunch of like fake checking accounts and savings accounts to meet sales quotas? And they did that. Stock got crushed. I forget exactly when this was though. It's probably back over here. Stock got crushed, just sitting near $21 a share. Boom. Bounces strong. That was also during C19, so that could have been another time. Yeah. It's a similar thing to UNH, where UNH, they're like accused of some shenanigans, right? That kind of exacerbated the drop. Maybe that could be a bullish recovery. We'll see. Again, though, I'm long on CNC, lightly long on UNH, and I'm long on NVO. Keep posting your guys' stocks. I briefly want to talk about SPX. So SPX overall, a great week for iron condors. Friday, I was leaning towards that the market would close underneath the expected move, which was right above here. And I constructed a bearish weighted iron condor Thursday. And this was early Thursday. So the entry to the iron condor is right here. And I also did a 0-day iron condor. Boom. Max profit. Money. Right? And the next day I was like, yes, this is going to be good. And then the market had a nice squeeze into the close on Thursday. Friday, we had a big gap up. Just a normal gap up. And then it just kept squeezing. And I was like, okay, well, we're probably not going to sell underneath to 63.50. And I cut that pretty much near the low on that dip, which is good. Remember, iron condors, you get paid the longer you hold them, especially if your strikes are out of the money. And you got to let the probabilities handle themselves. But I'm actually very happy with the way that I managed risk over there. Other days of the week, good iron condor right over here. That paid. Got some bullish call debit spreads on Monday. Boom, those paid. So this week, just keeping an eye on SPX, keeping an eye on futures trading. I'm excited. I'm excited for this week. Friday, I was really, really green by midday, and then I took one bearish trade right kind of near the lows, and I got squeezed right out of it. I was looking for just a little bit more of a drop and couldn't get it. That's fine. I'll bounce back. I got this. But with futures trading, like, boy, you really want to undertrade, because every decision that you make, it takes mental capital. And you can run into decision fatigue sometimes. And that can bleed over into the rest of your day. So that's a quick tip on that. Last week we had a really good win on MP. Did anybody take the MP trade here on YouTube? Anybody in Victory Trades? I alerted this as well. I noted the bullish breakout over 64. Stock is sitting at 79 right now. Look at this. Beautiful move. 20% gain in a week. And I just sold bullish put credit spreads, selling the 64, buying the 62, closed well above 64 for max profit. If you guys took that call debit spread, you risked $200. $200 turned into $600 by the end of the week. Boom. There you go. Enjoy the gains. Another good win was on MSOS. Actually, I'm still long on MSOS, but bought this breakout over 320, sold the 350 covered call, got some cash flow, sold the 350 covered call again, and I'm probably going to get called away if it closes above 350, and I'm totally cool with that. So MSOS, wheel is still in play. The entry just gets a bit tricky at some points. If you guys are following the day trading channel, at the end of the day, I posted an AI setup, NQ futures, highest probability trade in the next 90 minutes. I was wrangling it a bit with a few different charts. Entry, 23,700 to 23,710. Stop, 23,675. Target, 23,770. Take a look at this chart. This is the end of the day on Friday. So this blue line represents the entry. Guess what? The stop loss never hit by 2 ticks or 2 points. That was the stop loss. And then the target did hit after hours, TP. If you just caught one contract of NQ, that's about $1,800. I'd have to double check my math, but that's $1,800. You did have to risk, though, close to 900 to 1,000. But I am posting some day trade setups over there. Posted some CL shorts. Those played out well. So those are easier futures trades to follow, because a lot of the times with futures trading, especially with Apex, that's when it's tough to follow scalp trades. And again, I don't want to tell you guys what to do, because everybody has a different risk tolerance, time horizon. Some things are easy to follow, some things are harder to follow. Scalping's the hardest thing to copy somebody else doing. Core day trades are okay to follow, but they're still pretty fast. Swing trades are generally easy to follow. That's why most of the alerts are swing trades. Again, not financial advice. It's all for educational purposes. And then investing's the easiest to follow on somebody. You buy some shares and check back in a few years, right? So, yeah. How about MP? I just broke down MP. Looks bullish. If it could retest 64, that'd be great. Got a nice win on that last week. Bullish call debit spreads did well. Bullish put credit spreads did well. So MP. Yeah, this week expected move is $6.50. If this could sell off, see the 64 strike cash secured put's not paying a lot. Oh no, you're good. You good. You good, Aaron. Yeah, enjoy the gains. That was a fun trade, right? All right, so I'm going to be wrapping it up. It was good hanging out with you guys. I'm going to get ready for live trading tomorrow morning. Yeah, that was a good one. We'll find more setups like that this week. Okay? I just exited you guys out. There we go. We're back. All right, so I'll be live trading tomorrow morning, 9:15 a.m. Eastern. If you're on YouTube, say what's up, say hi. If you're at all interested in joining Victory Trades, I encourage you to check it out. You're going to learn a lot. You get a ton of trade ideas. You get my support, and you can cancel anytime. All right? Peace out, you guys. I'm going to be signing off. Bye-bye.